Today, we're diving into the pretty fascinating science behind a common herbal remedy, something you've probably seen on a shelf before. And we're going to look at its really surprising connection to modern cancer research. So let's get right into the evidence.
So let's just start with a huge question. What if a compound that we've known about for ages, something that helps with swollen legs and varicose veins, also held the key to dramatically changing cancer outcomes? Sounds a little wild, right? But it's the very real premise of a stunning clinical trial we're about to break down.
And the key player in this whole story is a compound called Escin. It's the powerhouse ingredient that's extracted from horse chestnut seeds. Now, for the longest time, we've known it for its really strong anti-inflammatory effects and its ability to strengthen vein walls. That's what venotonic means. But, as you're about to see, that is just the tip of the iceberg.
So how in the world do we get from veins to tumors? Well, this is where the research takes a really interesting turn, connecting what we know about eosin's effect on blood vessels to the very same tricks that cancers use to grow and spread.
Okay, so first things first, let's talk about what we already know for sure. For years, people have used horse chestnut extract to deal with something called chronic venous insufficiency. It's basically a fancy term for when your leg veins have trouble pushing blood back up to your heart. And that can lead to all sorts of things, right? Varicose veins, swelling, pain, itching, all things that clinical trials have actually shown can be improved with this extract.
And that brings us right to the heart of this explainer, a really high-quality human clinical trial from 2017. They tested Escin in patients with advanced thyroid cancer. And the results? Well, they were nothing short of remarkable. So picture this. The study took 150 patients, all of them battling advanced forms of the disease. 120 of them got an Escin treatment, and a smaller group of 30 got a placebo. Then the researchers just watched and tracked two really important things: how long patients lived before their cancer got worse, and of course, their overall survival.
So let's look at that first metric, progression-free survival. For the patients who got Escin, the median time before their cancer progressed was 2.44 years. Now that number by itself might not sound like a lot, but wait till you see the comparison.
Okay, check this out. The placebo group had a median progression-free survival of just over 1 year. The Escin group, almost 2.5 years. We're talking more than double the time without the disease getting worse. That's a huge difference. And believe it or not, it gets even more dramatic.
Now for the second metric, and you could argue it's the most important one, overall survival. For patients in the Escin group, the median overall survival shot up to an incredible 7.6 years.
And when you see it on a chart like this, the contrast is just, wow, it's stark. You've got 3.73 years for the placebo group, and then 7.6 years for the Escin group. So in a high-quality human trial, adding Escin more than doubled the median survival time for these patients. That is just incredible.
So, of course, this begs the question, how? How is this even possible? What is this plant compound actually doing inside the body to have such a powerful effect? Well, scientists have a few really compelling ideas.
One of the leading theories is all about this protein called NF-kappa B. Now, you can think of it like a master switch inside our cells that controls things like inflammation and growth. The problem is, a lot of cancers figure out how to hijack this switch and turn it permanently on to fuel their own survival. And what multiple studies suggest is that Escin can come in and help flick that switch back to off, basically cutting off a major supply line for the tumor.
But it doesn't even stop there. It seems like Escin launches this multi-pronged attack. Lab studies show it blocks angiogenesis, that's the process of building new blood vessels that tumors need to feed themselves. It also triggers something called apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. It basically tells cancer cells, hey, it's time to self-destruct. It can kickstart autophagy, which is like a cellular self-eating process. And on top of all that, it might even make some cancer cells more vulnerable to traditional chemo drugs.
So when you see these dramatic results in thyroid cancer, and you see all these powerful ways it might be working, you have to wonder, right? Could Escin work against other types of cancer too? And this is where the early research is getting very, very busy.
Okay, but before we go any further, I need to put up a big flashing sign here. This is super important. Everything we're about to talk about is preclinical. That means it comes from experiments in petri dishes or in animals. And while it's incredibly exciting for pointing a direction for future research, it is not the same thing as the high-level evidence we saw in that human trial.
But with that said, this preclinical data really does paint a picture of broad potential. For instance, in an animal study on ovarian cancer, asparagine reduced the tumor load by over 94%. I mean, that's huge. In models of osteosarcoma, that's a type of bone cancer, it triggered cell death. In animal studies on lung cancer, it seriously slowed down tumor formation. And in the lab, it's been shown to inhibit cell growth and suppress metastasis in pancreatic and even aggressive breast cancers.
All right, so let's pull all of this together. We've got really strong human data in one type of cancer, and then this whole wave of promising early-stage research across many others. So what does this actually mean for you? What's the takeaway here?
And on top of all the direct anti-cancer stuff, it's worth pointing out that research also suggests some pretty cool quality of life benefits. Some studies hint it could improve recovery after surgery. It's also been looked at for helping with lymphedema, which can be a tough side effect of cancer treatment. And of course, there are those tried and true benefits for vein health, which can be a real issue for a lot of patients. Now, this next part is maybe the most important thing I'm going to say. This is not medical advice, period. What we're doing here is breaking down the published science to make it easier to understand, but it is absolutely not a recommendation for any kind of treatment. The whole point of this is to empower you, to give you high-quality info that you can take with you to start a conversation with your doctor, with your oncologist. They are the only person who can look at your specific, unique situation and help you figure out if any kind of complementary approach is safe or makes sense for you. So we'll end on this thought. The story of Escin is just a really powerful reminder that sometimes, just sometimes, the answers to our biggest challenges might be in the most unexpected places. Maybe even in a simple seed that's been hiding in plain sight all along. Thanks for joining me.